So she's like, I think you need to cool down. Hi, this is Cass from Aussie Cass Plays, and welcome back to the Royal Generation of my Medieval Legacy Challenge. It's like a Thursday afternoon. Edward's just gotten home from his learning academy, which is what I assume high school is for a prince. But I just wanted to apologise first for the delay in getting out a new medieval part. It was a series of unfortunate events, if I can take a phrase from Lemony Snicket. I had to age up the save. Edward's cousin, so Bartholomew's son, is actually meant to be a few months older than him. He was still a child. There were a few other Sims I had to age up, which took a bit of time. Then last weekend, my son and I got to go down to the coast for 3 nights, which was very exciting, but usually I record Sims videos on a weekend, so that messed everything up. And then when I got home, I was like, oh, I'll just get everything set up ready to go to record. I run the Sims on my solid state drive on my computer, which is smaller but more powerful because it's the Sims that needs it. And my hard drive was full. So that's nice. So I couldn't even download the patch. So I just spent like the better part of a day going through doing a massive CC audit. I loaded up this lot and it was like, oh, we've replaced 18 items. I've had a look around. I can't see what they are, but as I spot things that seem out of place, I'll just replace them. It's fine. The main thing was making sure that I didn't touch any of the medieval CC because I don't want Sims walking around bald, naked. Not ideal. But bear with me. If you catch a glimpse of something horrifying or wildly inappropriate, we'll just handle that together. But I'm gonna get Edward, where is he? He's doing his homework. So I might get the king to come up. We'll say help with homework, but he actually just wants to talk to him. Edward's like, you look troubled. Has anything happened? And he's like, no, only the situation with Lord Richard. To be honest, Uncle, I'm worried that I don't have the skills for this role. Ooh, love that. T-posing. He's like, I'm worried I don't have the skills to run the kingdom like you do. Gregory is saying, well, what do you mean? You're a very capable young man. Your parents have raised you well. What is it that you're concerned about? And Edward's saying, well, I wasn't able to win Lord Richard over to my side. And if I can't win him over, how am I going to win over the more difficult lords? And Gregory's saying, well, Richard he's a character, and I also have difficulty with Richard. You may not be able to tell, but he obliges and complies with my requests, but he does it grudgingly. He takes liberties based on the fact that we are related. He's basically trying to reassure Edward, and he's saying, effectively, he wouldn't use this phrase, there's more than one way to skin a cat. If you're concerned that you're having difficulty with Lord Richard, why not focus your attentions on his son? Because Martin Goth will be the new Lord Goth in due course, and as I'm roughly the same age as Richard, and presuming we both live a long and happy life, by the time that the Goth family effectively becomes your problem, Edward, hopefully Martin will be, I don't know why he keeps doing that, hopefully Martin will be ready to assume the role of Lord of the Goth estate. Can I pick this up? No? Don't know what's going on with, is anyone else having troubles with the homework being bugged? This is new. Basically, the king is suggesting, why don't we have some of the younger gentlemen of the realm over, and you can bond with them, you can go horse riding and play cards and perhaps share a drink and discuss the affairs of the realm, dance, all of that. So what we're going to do, he's going to send a letter out. I'm actually going to have it as a weekend thing. I'll probably do it as a stay over, like Friday, Saturday night. Effectively, it's going to be a sleepover, but for nobility. So we're going to have Martin, I think. Also, Felix is a teen now, which is very exciting. So I was thinking Martin, James, Felix, and then there's another teen that we could have over, which is the new Honeycutt. I forget his name. He'll be the new heir to the Honeycutt estate. Again, he's a teen son. Marcus Honeycutt. And you let him take care of his needs and get some sleep. And then after school on the Friday, we'll have a stay over. So I forgot that the spring equinox holiday that is on the Friday is also a stay home from school day. So I've actually started the event. I'm going to get you to stop playing. Come out here and do friendly introductions. Now, did you meet Martin? Oh, you did. Why is there a fox in my house? So this is Marcus. We're hoping they have a better compatibility than we had with Richard, because the Honeycutts aren't as influential as the Goths are, but they're still pretty influential. Ooh, we have a great reputation. Very exciting. I had the bills come out today, and like, it, for some reason, when I loaded the lot on the Thursday, it automatically deducted the weekly bills. Feel like that was a bug, but it was over 30,000. How many's that? 16? No, 14. I can math. That's 14 Sims that we're friends with. So that's good. Oh, and by the way, little Henry's a toddler, and Justine is now a child. Isn't she precious? Focus the camera on Felix. Oh, here he is. He's here, my baby boy. I mean, Henry's technically the babiest of the boys. Sure, you can like gardening. Welcome, Felix. So this is Felix as a teen. He's still very thin. Obviously, he's had issues with gaining weight because he was preemie. He's had issues with gaining weight his whole life. But you'll see he has put on some muscle, so it's very exciting. Now, I said we'd have a ball. The thing is, I don't think he's met a single teen girl his age yet. Oh, no, I'm not going to the prom. Don't be sad, Marcus. It's fine. We're not... Oh, my... This doesn't make sense. So I'm going to remove those sentiments. Stop getting a crush on James. Aside from the fact you're related. That's the second time that's happened. Now, I can, as far as spring equinox activities go, I'm not going to have him flirt with anyone, but he could give flowers as like a neutral gesture. A holly? A sprig of holly? Maybe? As a... Oh, please. Actually, I probably shouldn't have chosen Marn for this. We've already got enough issues with this family. Oh, he did accept it. That's good. He preserved it. Big time. Oh, he didn't like it. But we've got the tick, so that's fine. Talk up Felix. It's like, yeah, okay, he's a noble from out of town, but he's still important, you know? So we're talking up Felix to everybody. It's like, hey, have you met my brother? You found him quite pleasing. Felix is great. Is that all you have to say? Great. The boys have been talking about the progress of the war and have come in here to basically... Martin's got zero interest in this, but they've been talking about, you know, defeating vampires, and they kind of puff themselves up a little bit, and they're like, why don't we come in here and do this? I love that these two are getting on. Felix is just being the amazing charmer that he is. Why don't you join this conversation? No, we're not. That's awkward. Try and join the conversation. Everyone freezes. You hate it when that happens. Unfortunately, I think James has developed a crush on Edward too, based on the way he's acting, but that's fine. These two are just catching up. It's like, how have things been, you know, at home since I left? And Felix is like, well, it's not the same without you, but things are fine. Things are fine, you know. Justine is a complete menace to society. She's a firecracker, and mum and dad dote on her and spoil her terribly. There's a little bit of jealous sibling kind of creeping into the tone, and Edward is kind of seeing through that, and he's like, how are things going with you? You know, are they letting you do more? I know that was really frustrating you. And Felix is saying, well, they've kind of had to, because with you gone, they know, for example, I'm going to need a horse. You know, I can't be the lord of an estate and not have a horse. Of course, that's not strictly speaking true. You could own them and not ride them, be drawn around in a carriage. So Felix is like, you know, they've come to realize that, and guess what? They actually got me a horse, Edward. And Edward's like, oh, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you. I know you've wanted one since you were little. And Felix is saying, yeah, but it's like a fat old horse. I wanted like a fiery war horse. And Edward's like, Felix, I don't even have a fiery war horse. Felix is saying, well, you would have one if you wanted one. And Edward's like, maybe, but I don't think that Uncle Gregory would be happy with me putting myself at risk like that. And I know that Sir Byron would have very strong words for me if I tried to ride his warhorse, for example. Felix does have a horse now, which is exciting. Who is trying to butt into this conversation? Everybody is the answer. Everybody. In the morning, I might get them to, like, go for a jog together. You know, go out, explore the maze. Like, we are in the neighborhood in Windenburg that has no actual neighbors, but it has a bunch of, like, stuff you can explore. Some of this stuff I don't know if you can get to. Like, I don't even know if you can path over here. Oh, you can. Oh, there's a vendor over here. It's not a very medieval appropriate. Oh, Octavia. I'm just going to show you what Octavia actually looks like. This is the same sim because I only age up the main sims. I age up my family and I age up the nobility because things like the identity of the king changing over time is obviously relevant to realism and it affects everybody. But Octavia is a sim I haven't aged up. She's been in the sim probably for about 4 generations now. She was the one that beat up Gerard's little sister, who I've blanked on her name, which is terrible. But when she got in a fight when she was a child, this was the sim that beat her up. Presumably robbed her for money because she doesn't look like a very savoury individual, but she's doing her best, you know? She's trying her hardest. So it's relatively early the next morning and we're back on the chessboard, mainly because I'm trying to complete this part of this aspiration before I switch him to another aspiration. So I'm just trying to get level 4 and 2 more skills. But he's having a chat to Martin and basically trying to make friends with him. He's working on the theory that what his uncle said is true and that if he can win Martin over, he can hopefully, maybe Martin would even be able to sort of soften Richard's opinion of Edward. When we saw him last, he was a child, but he actually probably should have been a teen already, so I think he was just a bit of a late bloomer. Could we do a wedding group dance? I don't know how that's gonna work. There's no wedding. This is the, like, elite young men of the realm. Marcus is not approving. Look at him. He's like, These boys are getting into it, though. You can tell they're all related. Oh, no. They're embarrassing themselves in front of the upper tier nobility of Windenburg. Edward, technically on paper, is the upperest, tieriest of all of them, but not so much on account of how he grew up in the country. Martin seems to be into it, though. Maybe he's just a little bit awkward. Look at his sweet little face. Maybe this is a dance from Henford. So I've queued for the boys to go jogging, except for Felix, because obviously with Felix's health being what it is, they aren't likely to, like, he's not likely to want, I mean, he'd get deeply uncomfortable from going jogging. So I've just got them going for a little bit of a run. So this is James, Marcus, and Edward. And for some reason, Martin went the other way. So Edward is interrupted on his run by a mysterious tattooed stranger. And she's yelling at him and saying, you know, you rich boy. She probably doesn't know who he is. Not everyone in the realm is going to know what he looks like. She's like, you rich boy, tell your lord the king to stop stealing taxes from us poor people, basically getting stuck into him. So they're having an abhorrent conversation and she's getting quite riled and he's starting to be a little bit concerned, but also he doesn't want to back off. He does have a sword, but he also, because it's a woman, he doesn't want to, like, you know, impale her. But then he's like, well, you know, is she a warrior of her own? She's wearing pants. So maybe she is a warrior, like a mercenary or something. Oh, she's gonna slap him with her fan. Now, this is CC. I haven't seen this animation yet, so I want to see it. Look, she doesn't strike me as someone who'd have a fan, but that's also kind of hilarious. It's probably not a fan. It's probably a closed fist, if I'm honest, but that's fine. Love that. That's a Jane Simston mod. I believe that's the name of the creator. Love that. And yes, I went and got rid of a bunch of mods, but I also made it worse by getting more. So the argument is continuing when a stranger appears behind them. She comes over and she's like immediately going to intervene. So she's like, I think you need to cool down. Super villain pun, you guys. He's a bit shocked, but then he's like, talk about the cool temperature. My sims are harsher than I am, you guys. So she's like, thank you, stranger. I was genuinely concerned. And she's like, I always like to see members of the crown. And my family looked after. And he's like, your family? And she's like, yes. I am a distant relative of yours. She's had a bit of a makeover because it's been maybe 100 or so years. This is Desirae. She's like, well, why don't we summon the guards to deal with this woman and head back to the castle? And Squire James has come over like, oh, I'm not going to the prom with you. James has come over to be like, is it true? I heard that someone was accosting you, Edward. Is it this woman? And he's like, no, it's this lady over here. So James is going to go and get Byron to deal with this lady who needs to be clapped in irons. And we're going to take Desirae and Edward back to the house. So I've just used the first impressions mod to actually generate a first impression between Edward and Desirae. He thinks she's distant. She thinks he's annoying. That's unfortunate. I was hoping you guys would be besties, but that's okay. So he's like, well, you said you look after family. What do you mean? And she's like, you wouldn't remember it, Your Highness, but you and I are distantly related. And he's like, are you related to the Goths? And she's like, no, I'm related to the Grahams. We were talking about whether his family would know there's a connection to the Grahams or not in the last part because of the other Marcus, not Marcus, who's currently on a stay over with us, but Father Marcus, who is the husband of his aunt. Obviously, the family graveyard is at the Graham farm. So the non-noble Sims who don't have like a sepulcher, I don't even know how to say that word. Like if they don't have a family grave, they get buried there. So it makes sense to me that he would know that there is a connection to the Graham family. Speaking of Marcus's, hello Marcus. Can people stop inviting me to the prom, please? I don't want to go, okay? We're not going to a prom. I can't think of anything worse. Stop inviting me to things. We've probably got negative sentiment to him now. Yep. We're creeped out. And he's dejected. Did we get one? And he has a festering grudge. I'm taking that off too. So, back to what I was saying. I think he would know that he has a family connection to the Grahams somehow. Because the thing is that the Grahams started, like the Graham estate, effectively, on the Crumbling Isle, started off as a very poor estate. Like, obviously, Olivia and Zachary, you know, they had a mud floor in their hut at the beginning. But the thing is now, because over the generations, the farm has expanded, cottage living came out, so now they have livestock. They're not nobility, but they're at least sort of merchant class. So it's not super embarrassing to be related to the Grahams. Obviously, she knows the entire family history because she's Olivia's granddaughter. She knows all that, but she's not going to go into that because that would involve admitting quite how old she is. Desirae is obviously a spellcaster. For those of you who maybe are jumping in late, her mother was a spellcaster, but wasn't like actively practicing spellcaster. She just had the ability. Passed it on to her daughter, her mum and her father, who was at the time of his death was a regular human. Like, they chose to pass away together, but Desiree's been using her powers to prolong her aging. And the reason is because she wanted to be able, oh my god, Marcus, if you ask my sim out to the prom one more time, she's basically saying that she made a promise to a distant relative of his to keep an eye out for the family. And she's also concerned for the realm, the vampires, particularly Lord Stroud, or King Stroud, effectively. They call him Lord Stroud, but effectively Lord Stroud and his wife don't win the war. It's very important to her. Again, a reminder / catch up for those of you who don't know, Desirae was actually born in the Forgotten Kingdom in Caleb's house. So her father was kidnapped by Teresa. Caleb and Lilith rescued him from Vlad and Teresa. And I think he was a vampire at the point where she was conceived, but she inherited the spellcaster trait, not the vampire trait, as you do. So she knows that there are good vampires. She also knows there are really evil vampires. Desiree's motivations are twofold. She doesn't want Vlad to win, because if Vlad wins, she knows what that would mean. But also, she wants to try and moderate the actions of the king's army so that Caleb and Lilith, who she's quite fond of, survive. So I know I want to move Desirae in. I've been saying this for a while because I love the idea of her being part of this household. But obviously that would be a big step and quite early. And we do also have a stayover. So basically I wanted these two to get to know each other. So I am going to move Desirae out. In the long run, I would like for her to move in. We'll just see how the relationship goes. Those first impressions weren't great. It means also that if Edward needs to access a spellcaster, he now knows where there is one. I think he'd keep that to himself. Given the Order of the Watcher, he knows how they feel about spellcasters, and he wouldn't want any negative consequences for somebody who just saved his life. I'm going to leave this one here. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you as always. If you've enjoyed, again, as always, I always say this, please like and subscribe. You know the drill. And I will catch you next time. Thanks for watching.